Invincible doesn't just show you superhero fights. It grabs your face, slams into the pavement, and says, yeah, this is what it really looks like when gods throw punches. From bones snapping like twigs to heads popping like grapes, this show is absolutely brutal. So today, we're diving into the most brutal, most jaw-dropping, and just straight-up wrong deaths in Invincible so far. And trust me, some of these, you'll never unsee. To start things off, we don't need to go any further than the ending of the very first episode. Yes, I'm grouping up the Guardians Massacre as a single entry to save time. Right off the bat, Omni-Man's brutality in dealing with his former team really sets the tone for the level of blood and guts we can expect from the rest of the show. He pops Red Rush's head like a balloon, cracks open Darkwing's body like an egg, pulverizes Spandex Lady and Fish Dude's skulls, snaps War Woman's spine like a twig, and simply decapitates a mortal with his bare hand. It's the kind of brutality you'd expect to see in maybe a Mortal Kombat game, and certainly not in what initially seems to be a pretty wholesome cartoon. Next, we've got the battering given to the Guardians of the Globe by Battlebeast. After thoroughly embarrassing all of them, he goes on to torture Mark slowly and painfully while the others are forced to watch. Unwilling to let this go on, Black Samson abandons his armor and rushes in, only for Battlebeast to chop off his arm and slam him so hard his skull splatters open. He doesn't stop there though, going on to crush Monster Girl with some loose debris, tearing her face open and exposing her skull. After coming home to an empty house amidst concerns that Cecil has realized his true goal, Omni-Man sniffs out the GDA soldiers stationed to observe him under camouflage. From there, the whole thing's a massacre. One soldier gets their face slammed open on the ground. Another's skull is impaled by their own gun. Another's torn in half over the kitchen island. And another still finds their whole upper and lower halves facing opposite directions. As if that wasn't bad enough, he then goes after Donald in the monitoring station across the street, where he digs his hands into the man's spine. The only reason he doesn't suffer more is because Donald sacrifices himself in an attempt to blow up Omni-Man. Not long after killing Donald, Omni-Man comes face to face with Immortal once again. After a fairly one-sided battle, Omni-Man parries a hit from Immortal and punches clean through his torso. Living up to his name, Immortal tries to retaliate by digging into Omni-Man's eyes, but it's to no avail. Nolan simply chops Immortal in half with a quick swipe of his arm, and the fight is over. Omni-Man drags Mark through an entire city in an attempt to convince him of how insignificant humans are compared to them. In this process, he uses Mark as a battering ram to pulverize dozens, if not hundreds of innocent civilians on the subway. The aftermath of this move doesn't just kill everyone on the train, but everyone in the station as a whole, whether on impact or after the fact by being crushed under debris. Back on Telescria, after a heart-to-heart with Mark, Alan and Alien comes face-to-face with the Viltrumite trio, demanding information on Mark and Nolan. Despite being weaker than them at this point, Alan refuses to talk, resulting in a painful and vicious death. After being beaten by all three in tandem, his eye is bashed out of its socket, his arm ripped off, and his torso blown clean open by a fist through his chest. During the fight between the Guardians and the Lizard League, Shrinking Ray ends up getting eaten by their most physical, daunting member. At first, it seems like this is the perfect opportunity for her to just unshrink and blast the guy open from inside. Unfortunately, the guy she's inside is so ridiculously tough that she can't break through his body. Instead, he presses down on her while she's inside him and quite literally crushes her with his body. After suffering thoroughly at Angstrom's hands and seeing how badly he's hurt his mother, Mark has had enough. Finally, his rage and survival instincts overtake his unwillingness to kill. In just a few hits, he completely subdues Angstrom. Then, still caught in his fit of rage, Mark goes on to wail on Angstrom until he's little more than a pile of ground-up flesh. More of his blood on Mark than in his own body. After the Mahler twins launch a nuke, Invincible is forced to leave Oliver behind and race after the thing before it can cause serious damage. In the absence of his brother's voice of reason, Oliver, who's already been struggling with the concept of mercy, decides the Maulers need to be stopped. In a quick move that they don't even see coming, Oliver dashes right through Twin One's body, blowing it open and killing him instantly. Despite the second twin's pleas to be spared, Oliver calmly walks over and uppercuts his skull clean off. After escaping from a Viltrumite prison transfer ship, a buffed-up Alan and Nolan team up to take down their captors alongside Battlebeast. After struggling to fight one of said captors alone, they find much more success in actually fighting together. At the end of the battle, as the guard dashes at Alan, the Alien and Nolan see an opening for a sure kill attack. Together, the two close in on the Viltrumite and slam their fists into each other with the guard's skull between them. with his brain popped clean out of the top of his skull and his head turned into mashed potatoes. He dies instantly. After being caught and imprisoned for attacking Invincible and Rexplode, Multipol makes his big prison break in a truly gruesome manner. After squeezing himself into an opening in his cell's ceiling, he has his clones multiply constantly to the point that the cell literally can't hold them anymore. All those clones experience some of the most excruciating pain imaginable as they're crushed under the weight of their own selves, all so their bodies can force the door open for the original to escape. Powerplex finally manages to lure in Invincible, using his own wife and child as faux hostages. Unfortunately, his attempt to get justice by electrocuting Mark with his artificially enhanced powers is not only unsuccessful, but an absolute disaster, because while Mark's body can handle that kind of damage, humans cannot.
You're gonna get them killed!
Thanks to Powerplex's obsession, he doesn't realize until it's too late that his powers were affecting the area around them as well. To be more precise, his attempt to fry Invincible fried his family instead, leaving their bodies as no more than charred husks. Another evil Viltrumite plus Immortal trying to be a hero equals Immortal showing that he's actually pretty killable. The man cannot stop losing his head. When one of the Invincible variants attacks the Guardians in their new old HQ, Rex bravely tells the others he has a plan so that they'll flee. In truth, however, he has a hole in his side and no way to beat a Viltrumite, except one. After putting up a great fight and getting caught anyways, Rex digs his hand into his own body. He reaches so far inside that he's able to grab his own skeleton, allowing him to turn it into a powerful enough explosive to kill the enemy alongside himself. After his first loss against Invincible, returning to Viltrum in humiliation, Conquest is sent back to kill Mark properly this time. Instead, he gets the fight of his life against an even stronger Invincible than before. Spurred on by his drive to protect his family, Mark goes all out in an attempt to choke the life out of Conquest. Refusing to let go no matter what, Conquest tries desperately to force him off, even managing to drive his fist through Mark's guts. Despite this, Mark holds on, refusing to let Conquest live. When Omni-Man and Oliver arrive on the scene, they find Conquest's lifeless corpse clutching Mark's entire digestive system outside his body. Xandal Randolph, who'd go on to become Bulletproof, grew up in his hero-obsessed twin brother Tyrone's shadow. After becoming a geneticist as an adult, Tyrone would drug Xan and use him unwillingly in an experiment to get superpowers, only to die in the process. After trying to replace him for a while, Xan would eventually come clean to his parents about everything, with his girlfriend there for moral support. Unfortunately, said parents decided to frame Xandal for Tyrone's murder, unwilling to believe their baby boy could be so evil. In an act of protectiveness and anger, his girlfriend would attack his mom with a frying pan, cracking the hag's skull. When Xan's dad tried to lay hands on her, Xan tried to stop him, only to accidentally snap his neck because of his super strength. In the end, the couple decided to stage their deaths as a car accident, allowing them to move on with their lives. After finding a way to track Mohawk Mark back to his universe where he's holding Angstrom prisoner, Mark and Robot head there to make sure the villain is dead. After being led to where they're keeping him and hearing Mohawk Mark's speech, however, Robot is convinced that no Viltrumite can be trusted. In a single instant, he incapacitates them with the frequency they're weak to and tosses a machine inside Mohawk Mark's mouth. This machine burrows straight into his throat, where it shoves its way through his body and forces the Viltrumites inside to be on the outside. In the same scene, Robot goes on to make a move on Angstrom, who's been held prisoner here to be tortured and dissected in an attempt to replicate his powers. Unwilling to let this happen, Robot simply snaps open his blade and decapitates Angstrom, putting him out of his misery. After returning to their own universe, Robot walks in on Mark, revealing his plans for world domination to Cecil. Though he initially tries to play it off as a misunderstanding, Cecil's suspicion convinces Robot to make his move now. Without wasting a second, he catches Mark with the anti-Viltrumite frequency yet again and slits open Cecil's neck. Then, just to make sure the GDA director can't somehow weasel his way out and oppose him, Robot stomps down and crushes his skull, killing him for good. After being stranded in the barren desert dimension after the Invincible War, the evil Mark variants soon turned on each other. With no resources anywhere to be found, and so many aggressive personalities forced together, it's no surprise things got violent. It's only revealed how violent, however, when Mark falls for a trap that sends him there again, and the sight he's greeted by is a truly horrific one. Amidst a heap of picked-clean corpses sits the evil Invincible, feasting on the latest of his doppelgangers to fall. Evil Mark decided to cannibalize his variants for survival. After his banishment and time breeding the Thraxans, Thrag descends upon Mark's family for revenge. While his children hold off Eve and Mark, Thrag himself gets to their daughter Tara after killing Oliver for trying to protect her. Cold fury seeping through him, Mark uncharacteristically murders Thrag's son. Unfortunately, this in turn enrages his daughter Ursal, enough to snap Eve's spine and rip her jaw off. Distracted by the brutalization of his wife, Mark slips up enough for Thrag to literally tear his body in half. Afterward, Thrag leaves the two to die slowly, knowing that they'll agonize in their final moments over leaving their daughter alone to die as well. When Thaddeus reveals his true identity and past, it's discovered that he was the first ever Viltrumite to rebel against their empire. He was also the most brutal, as his defection came with the assassination of Emperor Argal, who he stabbed right in the skull with a Viltrumite bone, the only thing that could pierce his body. Argal isn't the only Viltrumite death Thaddeus is responsible for, however. Using his own DNA, Thaddeus developed the Scourge virus alongside the coalition of planets. This virus was so absolute in its lethality that it reduced the once thriving Viltrumite population to less than 50 individuals. So high was the death toll that the Viltrum homeworld has a ring around it to this day, formed by the corpses of all those who perished. In the final battle between the coalition of planets and Thrag's Thraxan hybrid army, the latter liberally uses his children as nothing more than cannon fodder. Throughout the initial conflict, his children single-mindedly throw themselves at the enemy, literally killing themselves without hesitation, fully brainwashed by their father and indoctrinated into desiring his approval over all else. They practically massacre themselves on the enemy's arms. The whole thing is a bloodbath of epic proportions, made even worse by the fact that Thrag truly couldn't care less. When Mark and Thrag have their final battle at last, Mark forces the fight onto the sun itself, believing this to be his last gasp or a suicide attempt in absence of a plan. Thrag tries to flee and let Mark burn there alone. This, however, is Mark's plan. He makes sure Thrag is unable to leave, planning to keep the fight going here until the sociopath's life peters out. As they descend deeper into the sun, their flesh burning, Mark forces Thrag into its core, instantly scorching both their skins off. From there, every attack is a brutality in itself. Every punch thrown, every kick swiped, every headbutt, every jab, every knee, every slam. The battle becomes one of wills, to be decided solely by which of them can hold out longer. And when all that's left are two masses of unrecognizable flesh and blood, the one to fall is the one with no one else behind him. Thrag dies alone, unrecognizable, unloved, and reduced to atoms.